Welcome back to the Playbook. I'm Scott Morris.
I'm Eric Johnson.
I'm Malik Grady.
And today the three of us have plenty in store for y'all. We'll show off highlights from last week's games, an interview with a record-breaking athlete running a pretty fast mile, and our game picks for next week, and just so much more. This is the Playbook. Let's take a closer look.
Sam Houston Memorial Funeral Home was established in September of 2003. Our partnership with the Small Business Development Center is just like our partnership with other vendors in our community.
We developed a marketing plan, a strategic analysis, as well as social media presence.
If you let them, they can take your dream, put it to paper. That's the way we got started, and 13 years later, we're very happy to be a part of this community.
Welcome back in. First up, we have our weekly segment of Pause Up, Pause Down, where we'll talk about a variety of topics concerning both Sam Houston sports and pro sports. First up today, we have steroids in baseball. Steroids were such a prevalent issue in the early 2000s in baseball, so the league had to crack down on it and give them kind of a rulings. However, with the MLB lockout right now, there really is no ruling since the agreement they agreed on back then expired. Eric, we'll start with you. Should steroids really be allowed in baseball?
I'd put my paw up for that, yes, because in 2019 through 2021, the ratings have been going down. And so it went down 12%. And if you look at the steroid era, the ratings were going up, and that put people in jobs, and their salary went up. And also just breaking records more, like home run, like, this record's breaking. And I feel as though if they do let that happen, like, for example, Sammy Sosa and McGuire, they were basically taken out of the Hall of Fame because of using steroids. Mm-hmm. So if they do allow steroids to happen, I feel as though they should also let them get a chance to be back in the Hall of Fame. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Malik?
Yeah, I would actually have to agree to an extent. So my paw is down. I feel like it shouldn't be allowed because other sports, is very looked down upon to use performance-enhancing drugs. And I feel like baseball should be the same way. It still takes athleticism. It still takes speed. And if it's not natural, then I feel like you shouldn't. Steroids just shouldn't be a thing. And also with what you said, if we're gonna allow steroids to be legal in baseball, I want to see Jose Canseco. I want to see Jason Giambi. I want to see Alex Rodriguez, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds. I want to see all of them getting back re-enlisted into being eligible to make the Hall of Fame. And to me, that's just unfair.
Yeah. I'd say both very good points. I'm going to have to agree with Eric on this one. I'm going to give a pause up. And the simple fact is, like you said, the ratings were so up during that steroid era. People's jobs were created during that home run race between McGuire and Sosa during that summer. There's a 30 for 30 documentary. However, currently the MLB, they don't allow those players into the Hall of Fame, yet continue to profit off of those players, continue to make namesakes on them, but won't give them their due diligence. So it's one way or the other. Either you have to punish these guys for their steroids and completely stop basically making products off of it, or you have to go ahead, give these guys their due diligence, and really just let these players play. I mean, Barry Bonds, one of the greatest hitters of all time. You look at his stats before and after steroids, almost identical. That was just a pure, good hitter, and he didn't make the Hall of Fame after 10 years being on the ballot, and that's simply just a crime to baseball. Any other comments?
No.
All right, next up, we have more local, Sam Houston women's basketball. Their win streak finally over. They won 7 straight games. They bounced back, won their 8th out of 9th, however, lost to Abilene Christian, a foe that's beaten them now twice this year. Is there a reason for concern, Malik?
Yes, and the reason I say that is because I'm looking at Faith Cook right now, our starting point guard. I'm looking at her numbers. I'm seeing a lot of inconsistencies, especially with the last 3 games. If you look at against Lamar, she did well. She scored 23 points, shot 50% from the field, was 8 from 10 from the free throw line. But then you go to the next game 2 days later against Abilene, she has 15 points. She shot 5 for 17. She has 0 free throw attempts. And then you see the game against UT Rio Grande Valley. She was 3 for 10 shooting with only 8 points, and Demaya had to take over the game with her career high in 23 points. So my X factor right now is the team is gonna play as well as Faith Cook plays, and so if our starting point guard is on, then I feel like the whole team is on.
Eric, agree or disagree?
I actually have to disagree on that. It was 88-71. I feel like I look at it as the whole team. I mean, there was, like, of course, turnovers. There was a lot of turnovers, but Jamie, I really don't know how to pronounce that name, but she had 9 3-pointers from Abilene Christian, and so I feel like it's something slight to work on that practice, just get up the defense and just, I don't know, just do better than that. But shout out to Faith Cook for scoring her 1,000-point mark, so yeah, big congratulations to her.
Congratulations.
Yeah, in that loss, definitely a big-time moment, 1,000 points for Faith Cook, career at Sam Houston. And in this topic, I think I have to go with a paw up that there shouldn't be any concern. Again, they bounced back. They beat UTRGV by 20 points pretty commandingly. Like we said last week, that team has looked completely different since Raven Justice came back. And really, they're connecting on different levels. I do agree with you, Malik, that the team plays as well as Faith Cook does. But as well, like we said, Demaya Telemock off the bench, scoring 23 points. Madeline Batista really being a force down in the paint has really helped this team kind of progress. Even when Faith Cook doesn't have the greatest night, someone else steps up. Whether, again, that be Telemock, that be Batista, that be Courtney Cleveland, who's been playing really good basketball lately. So in reality, we're coming down to the final stretch. We only got about, 4 or 5 games left in the season? But I don't think there should be concern going into the conference tournament. And lastly up here on
Oh, wait a minute, my bad. I do want to add.
Go ahead, Eric. My bad.
No. It's not, I mean, if we look back at, like, the old games, I mean, it wasn't really a blowout, but, like, I mean, 88-71, it's not too bad, but it's better than getting blown up by 40.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And especially, I mean, they were pretty close until that fourth quarter. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Lastly, we got going to the NFL. Brian Flores currently is suing the NFL over decrees of racism after being fired as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, which could be argued it was, wrongfully so that he was. We'll start with Eric. Do you agree, pause up, that he has the right for this lawsuit?
I do agree because we don't know what happens behind the scenes. And for example, Antonio Brown, he spoke up because he was injured and he posted on social media that the coach texted him basically to play, and that's unfair, obviously. And so I feel like he has a right to speak up for himself, and I'm glad he's actually speaking up because NFL hides secrets, and we don't know as the public, So, yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. Malik?
Well, my paw is going to be up for this one. I feel like Brian Flores is doing the right thing here in terms of not only, kind of helping out his own self, but also just we're talking about it, And so just to give a quick history lesson, the first black coach of the modern era wasn't hired until 1989. It was Art Shell for the then Oakland Raiders, now turned Los Angeles Raiders. Also, if you look down the history, there's only been 19 black head coaches throughout the entirety. There are no black owners. There are currently 3 black general managers.
I did not know that.
And you can also go back to, it wasn't always just coaches, like it was quarterbacks as well. Like if you go back to 1968 up until 2001 with the Michael Vick era, we've had 15 black quarterbacks starting in the National Football League. So again, like I said, to reiterate, I feel like Brian Flores is doing a good job because we're talking about it. We're putting the NFL on notice that, hey, look, the Rooney Rule really isn't, it really shouldn't be a Rooney Rule, I feel like. I mean, and we just need more African-American representation in the NFL.
That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to give a pause up right there with y'all. I mean, like you said, having such little black representation in the coaching staff, as quarterbacks, as front office people, there really has been such a lack of it. And Brian Flores, I mean, we look back at Jim Caldwell with the Detroit Lions. Coach brought that team, Detroit, who was historically a horrible team, to the playoffs 2-3 times, I don't remember how many.
Right.
Fired. Matt Patricia comes in, horrible team, has a longer tenure than him. And so just things like that you really just can't, overlook and overstep. I mean, Brian Flores is one of the smartest minds in the NFL, and I mean, you have to give him so much credit because he knew he was putting his career on the line, calling out the NFL and being like, this is how I feel, and rightfully so. I mean, like I said, I remember back with the Texans, they hired Rick Smith as their GM, and they kind of had that representation, and there was so much flack between the front office and him that he was eventually fired, and then Bill O'Brien took over. I mean, we had Brian Gain for a year, not great. Bill O'Brien took over as GM, and just, but absolutely agree with both of y'all. Brian Flores is completely in the right here. He needs to call the NFL, and like you said, we're not talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. Right. And that'll be it here for Pause Up, Pause Down. Now we're going to go into our interview with Andrew Bosquez. He's a track runner here at Sam Houston. Earlier this month, broke the mile record, running a mile in 4 minutes and 4 seconds. Growing up, Vasquez took after basketball from passion from his father. However, he slowly fell in love with running. This month, like we said, he ran that extremely fast mile. I mean, I can't even fathom the idea of running a mile in 4 minutes. Are you kidding me? But we sat down and kind of talked to him through his journey, you know, coming up from middle school, his upbringing, and being able to come into the runner he is today. Let's take a look at that.
So before the race, I raced at Houston. I ran a 4:10, and I was in the front of the pack, and I was thinking about it constantly, like, oh, I'm going to go for the record, I'm going to shoot for the record. Because the guy Jeffrey Moore, who previously held it, everyone used to brag about him. So I was like, this is a record I would, you know, love to get, because everyone brags about Jeffrey Moore. I want to, you know, I want to leave my footprint here as well. So at the Houston meet, I took the lead, and it just kind of went bad for me. So the plan was, you know, just let people push me through. I'm not really a sit back and just let people take the lead at all. So I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna listen to coach. One time I'm gonna, you know, listen to coach at least. And I went out there and I just stayed behind. I believe I was in last place at one point. And I was like, you know what, I'm not even gonna look at the clock. I caught myself looking at the clock. I was like, nope, don't even focus on that. Just let them push me through. And whenever I heard the last 2 laps count, I was like, all right, now it's time to see what we have left. And then it actually worked out. My teammates was like, you never get tired, you should try to go out and run track. And I was like, what? Like, what's track? And then he's like, just try it. I did it my freshman year, and then I moved back to my hometown, which was Hobbs, New Mexico. And then I did the same thing, played basketball, and then I ran cross country. One of my buddies was like, try cross country, it's only a 3-mile race, I think you'll be good at it. I was like, nah. I tried it my sophomore year. I got second my first race ever on varsity, and then I went to state. I believe I placed like top 25. And then the head coach who retired, he unretired because he was like, I see a lot of potential in this team. Like, I want to win state with y'all. So he came back my junior and senior year, and he was like, do you want to be a state champion? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I ain't going to, there's 24 kids that beat me. There's no way I'm going to end up doing that. He's like, no, quit basketball, focus just on running, and I'll help you out, and I promise you'll be a state champion. I was like, whatever. And then slowly I was doing summer training, and I was like, yeah, I probably should listen to him. So I quit without my dad knowing. I quit basketball, and I always told my dad. So before like the whole college dream came, my mom like passed away from breast cancer, and I always told my dad like, I don't want you to pay for college. So I went to junior college in South Plains in Levelland, Texas, and I did really good over there. Like, my first year, I got second place in the 10K outdoor championships. We won indoor nationals and stuff like that. So I was like, I don't want you to pay for college. And he was all like, he was like, no, like, it's fine, like, you know, we have money saved up. I was like, no, like, wherever the money is, like, that's where I'm gonna go. And so I got a bunch of offers from so many schools, and I was like, nah, like, I don't want to take no book scholarship. I know what I'm worth. Like, I can actually go out and do something good with good training. And he was like, no, I want you to stay close to home. And I was like, no, like, it's fine. And then Coach Parker called me, and he was like, I actually believe in you. Like, you know, like, I know you had a bad last year at your junior college, but he was like, I actually see a lot of potential. I was like, all right. And he offered me whatever he offered me. And my first year here, we had a team meeting in the old field house room, and our coach brought his computer out, and he showed us races, and Jeffrey Moore, that's all he would talk about. And he was a really good 800 runner. That was like his main event, was the 800. And he was just like, yeah, he was a crazy athlete. Like, if you go, he just never got tired. Like, a bunch of kids would be like, oh, I just have to wait and out kick him, or I have to wait to the last lap. But like, watching him race and stuff, watching the videos, I was like, all right, like, this kid's actually crazy. And every like story coach has, he's like, Jeffrey Moore. So I was like, I want to try to take that down whenever the time comes. And this man, it's been really difficult. Like, I was telling him, like, I kind of suffer from like social anxiety at times. Like, I go out, like, I don't want my face seen, or like, you know, I'm just like, oh man, like, people are looking at me. Like, I just suffer from that. I just yesterday I went into the LEC for the student athletes, where we can go and work on our homework in the library. And they all 6 academic advisors for us athletes like just started like asking me questions, and I got super anxious and super nervous. I was like, well, oh my gosh, like, I used to dream of it as a kid, and like it actually happening, I was like, oh man, like, I didn't know, like, I wanted this as a young athlete. I was like, oh man, so my phone was blowing up, something that's never happened before, so many congratulations and texts, and I was like, who are you, like what? And my dad was like, yeah, this person asked me for your number, and like my dad even said like some people from back home want to like write a newspaper article about me as well, and I was like, oh, okay, like yeah, I'll send him the times and what I ran, and he was like, yeah, go ahead. So yeah, it's been a lot, but dreaming we can get as a, like me having this dream as a young athlete, and now it's finally coming true, it's really good. My major is sociology with a minor in psychology. How I mentioned previously, like my mom passed away from breast cancer back in 2011, and she worked with autism kids as well, or kids who suffer with autism, and that's what I want to do in the future. And I fell in love with it because there's this one kid she would just work with, and I believe it was around 3 years after she passed away, I was in high school, and he came up to me and he was like, Andrew, and I was like, yeah, like that's me, and I gave him a hug and stuff. He was like, you were born on October 9th, 1998, and I was like, you remember that? And he was like, yeah, and I was like, what? And I just, like, I went home and I started crying. My dad was like, why are you crying? I was like, you remember that kid? Like, mom used to take care of him. He was like, yeah. I was like, he literally remembered my full name and my birthday. Like, I was like, I want to do that. Like, I want to work with kids like that. That means a lot. I never really, in junior college, I never really left my mark like the way I wanted to. My season kind of ended in a horrible way. I didn't really go to, I went to nationals and I was ranked like in the top 3, top 2 to finish, and that never happened. I was like, oh man, like no coach is gonna want me. Like this was my last year. They're gonna be like, oh, he like was a fluke. Like it was just a one good year. But then like Coach Parker took a chance on me, and me leaving my legacy hero, like that's amazing. Like me and him just finished talking. He wants to have that mile record race. I have the video of it, and he was like, can you send it to me, or can you put it in a USB? And like just me like knowing like he might use that in the future to teach other athletes, or he might call me and want to like Zoom call for me to coach other athletes, or me just talk to him, like that's really cool, because I always dreamed of it as a young kid. And
like we said, record-breaking mile, beating Jeffrey Moore by about 4 seconds, and just, can we just talk about how fast that is? 4 minutes and 4 seconds. That's a quarter mile every minute. I mean, just wow. Either y'all think you can even like attempt that?
Well, what I'm interested in is the preparation that goes into all of that, because what motivates you every single day to wake up and be like, I'm gonna run?
Exactly. Yes. No.
So you know, it's very interesting. I'm actually glad for him too. You know, I mean, you don't hear stuff like that all the time unless it's like a major Olympic event or something like that. But man, look, the sky's the limit for him. He's just in college, man. Look, whatever the next Olympics is, I better see his name on there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He told us a little bit when me and one of our crew members, Alex, talked to him. He warms up with 5 miles.
I can't even remember I can't even remember the half
Come
mile.
On. He said it so nonchalantly too. He was like, yeah, it's just like a 5 miles, and we usually do like our 2-mile sprints and then this and that. Like,
yeah, that's not normal.
Man, I run a mile, I'm out. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, I get tired after 1 mile.
I definitely couldn't do it myself.
But that too, and I mean, just his story, you know, his father, you know, he talked about he's been to every single one of his meets. He's recorded every single one of them, and I mean, just kind of having that support's got to be really cool.
That's a dad's dedication right there. Yeah.
All right, you know, and then that's also good too, because I'm sure that's another motivational factor for the runner, Andrew as well, and I'm sure that's what wakes him up every day to do what he wants to do. You know, it's pretty cool, pretty interesting to know that.
Yeah, no,
Does he want to go to the Olympics?
Yeah, so he had talked about, he actually raced an Olympic athlete from 2019. I think his name was Craig Ingalls. And they had a race, and, you know, afterwards Craig was talking to him about, like, you know, like, you keep pushing, like, if you got people motivating you, like, you can make it in this and that, and, like, he was real impressed. But, yeah, no, so he talked about wanting to go to the Olympics, of course, as a runner, but he also talked about, like, a career after that. Because, of course, you know, sports don't last forever. However, there is definitely kind of, you know, longevity. However, he talked about his mom, who had unfortunately passed away from breast cancer in 2011. She used to work with a lot of autistic children, and kind of, you know, in their development and stuff, and he has that core memory he talked about of, you know, the kid running up and being like, I remember you and your birthday and this and that, and like, he is studying that to kind of continue his mom's legacy, and kind of, that's just so cool.
That is really cool, actually. Cool, You don't see that every day. He really has a good heart.
Yeah, just kind of one of those people, you know, athletes, you know, sometimes they can be, you know, jerks. Like, straight up, you know, there's some athletes people have horrible run-ins with, but, like, just kind of one of those really nice guys that you just can't not root for.
I got you, yeah.
But that was Andrew Vasquez talking about his record-breaking mile. Next up, we've got our plays of the week coming up on the highlight reel. Stay tuned.
Sam Houston Memorial Funeral Home was established in September of 2003. Our partnership with the Small Business Development Center is just like our partnership with other vendors in our community.
We developed a marketing plan, a strategic analysis, as well as social media presence.
If you let them, they can take your dream, put it to paper. That's the way we got started, and 13 years later, we're very happy to be a part of this community.
I enjoy seeing kids, regardless of their age, see the light bulb go on and they have that aha moment. In 1997, I started Tomorrow's Promise, the Montessori School of Huntsville, with 3 students. The Small Business Development Center helped me with classes on how to open a business.
We also helped Kay market through social media, website analysis, and develop funding opportunities.
We have grown to 38 teachers and over 220 students.
The proud son of hardworking immigrant parents, Eric Rodas chose to serve his country. A father, a soldier, and now a college graduate. He proved that circumstances have nothing to do with your outcome. Since 1879, we've been helping students like Eric determine their future. Sam Houston State University, a great name in education. Third-generation Bearcat Tacey Webb roped her way to a national championship through her hard work and fearless dedication. Trading her saddle for nursing scrubs, Tacey set her sights in another arena, a place where she can champion the needs of others. Since 1879, we've been helping students like Tacey reach their championship potential. Sam Houston State University, a great name in education.
Welcome back here on the Playbook. Last week was an action-packed time in Sam Houston sports. Softball entered their second week after the Bearcat Classic, like we talked about. Baseball started their season and took down the Big Ten champions in Nebraska 3-1. And basketball, I mean, we're about 2 weeks away from their conference tournament down in Vegas. I don't know about y'all. I'm trying to, I don't know, cheat my way to go to Vegas with them, but I'm not sure about that. But let's take a look at some of these plays of the week. So that was Sheridan Fisher of our softball team making that diving catch early in the first inning of that A&M game. And just the kind of athleticism, I think they underestimate in baseball and softball, kind of covering that distance. I mean, diving catch on the track, you know, I'm not risking that. That looked painful.
Yeah, like a hair.
Toughness and grit, that's what leads to champions.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of pain, I guess, running into that wall, but, you know, held on to that catch and not, you know, that game kind of got out of the way of Sam Houston, but still able to make that play and make the highlight reel. Next up, we're going to look at basketball against Abilene Christian, and we got 2 plays from that game right here coming up. Savion Flagg, who's been one of the biggest reasons why men's basketball has been so successful, down by 3 with about 12 seconds left, hits a 3-pointer at the top of the arc to send us to overtime against Abilene Christian, and we won thanks to about a minute left, him coming up with a pretty strong and one. Savion Flagg's impact in the game, talk about it.
Because he's from my hometown, so I've known him because he went to Adobe High School, and so I've seen him play against my brother before. He average, yeah. So he did really good, and I'm glad he made that 3-pointer. So I'm glad. Game overall, so yeah.
Yeah, I've been real impressed with Savion this season. Last 2 games, 20 points against Abilene. He had 17 against UT Rio. Like you said, one of the biggest reasons why Sam Houston men's basketball is finding the success that they have right now.
Yeah, no, he's really had that big presence. we had that big kind of influence with him coming down from A&M. Of course, when you got a big school like that, you always know that they're going to be a big name, and his presence was felt immediately. He has brought this team together. I mean, if you watch them play, they're just having fun.
Yeah.
But really, they just, again, that three-pointer, I mean, I was sitting there at the game and kind of pulled up, and when it's that late in the game, you're like, I don't know if we can do this. And he shot, I mean, all the confidence, he shot it and stared it. He knew that was going in, and sure enough, it did. Johnson got loud and just going through. Man, that was cool. And then him just coming up big in overtime, just can't say enough about Savion Flagg this season. And next up, we have baseball against Nebraska. Late into the game, it's close, 6-5, and a ball falls in for a 2-run double. And again, Nebraska being the Big Ten champions, a Power 5 school, kind of, how does that help your team start a season when you beat a big opponent like that?
Definitely helps with your confidence, because knowing that you can go out there and you can compete with those high-level schools like that, to me as a player, I'm thinking, okay, look, if we can beat them, we can beat anybody, and that's the mindset that I'm gonna have going into every single game from here on out, and I can always hold that in my back pocket that we beat Nebraska.
Yeah, that's what he said, confidence. I feel like coach should run with that and basically just motivate the whole team, but definitely bragging rights for that one, yeah. So, yeah, confidence will take you a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember back in 2020, we opened up our conference season, not the whole one, against HBU, an opponent that usually, historically, we've done well against, and I think we lost 3 or 4 in that one. And kind of seeing the difference, especially after this offseason, losing some of your best players, Colton Cowser being taken 5th overall in the MLB draft. That key piece in center field, Jack Rogers, a power hitting first baseman, and Kyle Backus, our ace starting pitcher. Losing all 3 of them, and just kind of that win, those series win against Nebraska really helped. And I know we talked about it, last week for our game picks, and we kind of had some confidence about this baseball team, and just kind of, that.
I forgot what I picked last time. I think I picked Nebraska. I want to say. But I was wrong though. Yeah. I was wrong.
I mean, it's good whenever we pick against our Sam Houston Sports, and they go out and prove us wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. But really good to see our team have that kind of confidence and go out there and, like I said, win against them.
Right.
And lastly, we have women's basketball back at home against UTRGV. Demaya Telemock, we talked about her a bit, had a career-high 23 points off the bench.
Congrats to her.
And 31 minutes off the bench. I mean, and she had a big and one play down in, I believe it was the second half of the game, that really kind of shifted momentum and kind of pushed them to that victory. I mean, just kind of talk about an impact off the bench.
Well, let's start with the whole team, because when I watch the game, the ball movement, they play like a whole team. Like, it's not no ball hog, they play like they're a team, like they're a family. So that happened, and then just knocking down 3-pointers and just attacking the basket. They really played really good. Like, I never seen women's basketball play like that before, actually. So yeah, they just really played like a team. I really liked that. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you can never ever devalue a bench role in basketball, because that 6-man, or in this case 6-woman, that's just the most pivotal time, because when your starters come out, they need their rest. You gotta have somebody you gotta have that next woman up mentality, So you gotta hold it down for your team, and for her to put up 23 points coming off the bench, that definitely is what helped them, stay afloat.
Yeah, I like how the bench was all like excited. Like, Coach Justice really knows what she's doing with them girls. She really does.
She does.
Yeah, Coach Justice came back here in, I believe, 2019 after Brendan Nichols had left the program, and really turned it around. I mean, at that time, the women's basketball team, they were finishing bottom 3 every year in the conference. Raven Justice came here and immediately turned this team around. And like you said, their energy is unmatched. They're all rooting for each other. They're all excited when another player steps up, because you just never know who's going to step up for that team. And then in this case, it was Demaya Telemock off the bench. I mean, you look at some championship teams in the past, just like in the NBA, Manu Ginobili being one of the most famous 6 men. Right. Jamal Crawford's going to be a Hall of Famer thanks to him being a 6th man, and just that kind of impact off the bench, it can't be overlooked.
Yeah, someone told her to get up, go back to coaching, because, she really is really good.
And I can tell you like this, there is nothing scarier than playing a team who plays as a unit and plays for each other.
Right.
Yeah, once someone hits a basket down, everybody's cheering and stuff. I mean, it almost strikes fear in the other team that it's like, oh man,
Yes, it
someone
does.
goes down, there's someone else coming
Yeah.
right back with us, and
Right.
they're going to bounce right back. But yeah, just kind of some action here at Sam Houston for their plays of the week. Lastly, we've got coming up our game picks for the week. We've got a lot of big games coming up, and we'll see that right after this commercial break.
Sam Houston Memorial Funeral Home was established in September of 2003. Our partnership with the Small Business Development Center is just like our partnership with other vendors in our community.
We developed a marketing plan, a strategic analysis, as well as social media presence.
If you let them, they can take your dream, put it to paper. That's the way we got started, and 13 years later, we're very happy to be a part of this community.
They came with a new
I enjoy seeing kids, regardless of their age, see the light bulb go on and they have that aha moment. In 1997, I started Tomorrow's Promise, the Montessori School of Huntsville, with 3 students. The Small Business Development Center helped me with classes on how to open a business.
We also helped Kay market through social media, website analysis, and develop funding opportunities.
We have grown to 38 teachers and over 220 students.
And welcome back here to the Playbook. I'm Scott Morris here with Eric and Malik. And finally, we got one last segment that we cap off everything with on the Playbook. It's our game picks, of course. You know, we're still in full swing of spring sports. Baseball starting, softball starting, basketball's ending. First up, let's talk about baseball. They travel to Dallas tomorrow, actually, on Tuesday, and they play the number 4th ranked team in the country, Oklahoma State. How are we feeling about that one?
We're not ranked right?
No.
I love my school and all, but it not ranked and then 4th in the country is like. Malik, what would you like to say?
I love my team as well. I love Sam Houston as well, but playing against the number 4 ranked team in the whole nation, and our team is kind of just up and down. I have to go Oklahoma State. I don't want to. It's not where I want to go. My heart's not saying it, but I have to go Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I got to agree with both y'all. I mean, I think Sam Houston's baseball team has definitely gotten better and better. I mean, 2017, making their first college classic. Or not the first college classic, first, oh man, I forgot what it was. The round after regional.
Okay, yeah.
It was the first time in program history, and super regional, that's what it was called. But they made their first one in 2017. They've kind of gotten better. They've lost some key pieces in Colton Cowser, like we said, and Jack Rogers and Kyle Backus. But, I mean, again, like we said against Nebraska, they looked good.
They did.
But Oklahoma State, I mean, that's a tough opponent. I mean, no matter what sport you're playing in, but just overall being number 4 in the country. I mean, just in general, that's kind of intimidating when you look at the schedule.
I mean, you wanna like if you're playing a hard team, your coach will obviously tell you like try your hardest. So I feel like they'll put up a fight, knowing that they're going in beating or trying to beat the team. But yeah, I feel like they're gonna put up a fight, not just go out easily. But yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And we'll stay a little bit more central. We got 2 home games for the last 2. Next up, softball plays against a former Southland opponent in A&M Corpus Christi and the Islanders. How are we feeling about that one, Malik?
I actually, again, I love Sam Houston, but I have to go with Texas A&M Corpus Christi, just going off of record. Softball, the SHU softball team they're 3-6 and they're 1-4 at home. With this game being played at home, I'm not too sure about that. Texas A&M Corpus Christi, they're barely staying afloat. They have they're over 500 for the season, and they're 4-0 at home. But they're also 0-3 on the road. So we have a chance. Yes, I'm not saying this is a guaranteed loss, but I do believe that A&M comes out on top.
Same thing. I looked back at, I think the last game, it was 0-5, so I feel like that was like all I needed to see. But I love my school and all, but Texas Corpus Christi gonna win that, to be honest with you.
I'm going to have to disagree with both of y'all. I'm
Really?
going to take Sam Houston softball in this one. I think they looked really good this last weekend against LA Tech, beating them in 2 games.
You can look really good, but
I mean, yeah, they can. And I mean, again, I think the familiarity of a former, conference opponent really helps with that. I really like what Coach Garrett Volish is doing with this team. He's really found his crew, especially at the pitching staff. Mika Vento has been really good for them. She went out and pitched for them, I think 2 or 3 games this weekend played very well. And I really think that the softball team, you know, they may not win this game. I think they might. I think they will. When this season gets going, I think they're going to get hot, and I think they're going to have a really good shot at being a high seed, especially hosting the conference tournament here in Huntsville late in May. But for this one, I'm going to have to take the Bearcats. And lastly up, we have a big opponent, of course. Anytime we play them, any sports, it's Stephen F. Austin. We've got women's basketball here. Stephen F. Austin's basketball team, or women's basketball team, they haven't lost in conference since 2020. They went 14-0 in conference last year. They are 14-0 currently in conference play this year. Do you think that we can match up against them, Malik?
Yes. And I feel like it's also with us being rivals. We just know their team so well. We know their school so well. And, when they come in our town, when we go to their town, it's going to be a fight regardless. I understand what you're saying about SFA not losing conference in the last 2 years, but I feel like with Miss Justice, there's a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big game like you said. We have Coach Justice. I mean, I'm not worried. We have a secret weapon, Coach Justice. But, they've been playing like a team. They've been playing really fundamental basketball. I feel like we got it in the bag. It doesn't matter to say Stephen F. Austin's ranking, but we got this.
Yeah, and I mean, I want us to win. I really do. I don't know if I can see it happening, but I mean, we played Cal Baptist this year, and they were on, it was like a 10-game winning streak, a 22-game winning streak against Conference, or 26, I think it was, and we beat them. So, I mean, even if we lose this game, I don't think we're going down without a fight. I really think that's going to come down to the wire. Like you said, Coach Justice changed this team around. They were playing for her, and she's coaching for them, and really just, I think they're going to go down. They're not going down without a fight. They will, teeth and again, it's Stephen F. Austin. It means a little bit more. Let's see if we can get a good crowd for that game as well, because the crowd plays such a big deal, and especially in those closed arenas. But yeah.
Last game it was 46-79. That was without Coach Justice, and that was a 30-minute loss. So I feel like it's gonna be different. I promise you. Y'all gonna watch. It's gonna be different.
100%. Any last thoughts here before we wrap up on anything we discussed today?
And I say losing by 30. That you feel that.
Yeah.
Like
you don't go home, man.
You might be upset the first day, but the next day you want revenge. So I'm sure they had this date circled on their calendar, and they are waiting for the Lumberjacks to see what they can do.
Absolutely.
Already.
Anything else, y'all?
No, that's it.
Good on today. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for all tuning into the Playbook and taking a closer look into the world of sports with us. Have a great evening, and we'll see you all next week.
Go Bearcats.
Ooh, almost.